I'm not here to talk about plans to deal with this till 2017. I'm saying we've got a real problem, and I'm tired of Republicans and Democrats who either want Republicans who want to burn the place to the ground, and Democrats, with all due respect, who want to offer a plan that gets it through their end of their second term of their presidency, and then screws me and my kids when it's over. And until we do that, we have to deal with the extraction that is at foot. It is the reason the financial markets are behaving the way they're behaving. That is a mathematical fact. This is not some opinion. This is a mathematical fact. Tens of trillions of dollars are being extracted from the United States of America.
Who is responsible for the extraction of wealth in our country?
How is it happening?
And maybe most importantly, what can we do about it?
The Medea Creek Middle School Economics Club would like to ask Congress to help all Americans with this problem. In our C-SPAN video, we will look at some of the ways American citizens are losing both economic power and constitutional rights. We ask Congress to help us get that power back. The founding fathers of our country recognized that there were a close tie between economics and freedom. Today, more than ever, Americans are facing the threat of losing economic justice and personal rights to the power of multinational corporations and banks. To help understand this, we interviewed former economic hitman John Perkins. He has written best-selling books Confessions of an Economic Hitman and Hoodwinked.
It's really economic hitmen have created the world's first truly global empire. It's not an American empire, it's a corporate empire run by the biggest corporations. And we've done this in many different ways, but perhaps the most common method that we used was to identify countries with resources our corporations covet, like oil, and then arrange a huge loan to that country. But the money never actually goes to that country or those countries. Instead, it goes to our own corporations.
So economic hitmen put countries in debt they can't repay. Then people who run corporations take the resources and labor of the people through privatization and taxes to pay debt. And who do these economic hitmen work for? John Perkins calls this international corporate power the corporatocracy.
So the corporatocracy is calling all these shots, and it has been driven by this one goal of maximizing profits. It works very closely with the media. It owns the mainstream media, either through outright ownership or advertising budgets. It essentially owns the government. It owns our elected officials, I'm sorry to say, but nobody gets elected president of the United States or any high position without huge corporate support, financial support. And at that point, the politician is basically under the control of the big corporations. So we're at the situation today where we've really got a global empire, first truly global empire in history, created through economic hitmen, primarily, not through the military. And then the new emperor is really a whole group of people that run our biggest corporations.
A good example of how this corporatocracy works is the Council on Foreign Relations. The Council on Foreign Relations is made up of some of the most powerful corporate people in the world, and they tell our government officials what to do.
But it's good to have an outpost of the council right here down the street from the State Department. We get a lot of advice from the council, so this will mean I won't have this far to go to be told what we should be doing and how we should think about the future.
Former U.S. Treasury Secretary and Goldman Sachs executive Robert Rubin is currently on the board of Council on Foreign Relations. He was one of the main contributors to the repeal of the Glass-Steagall Act. This now allows banks and companies like Goldman Sachs to gamble with our savings, checkings, and retirement funds in the international market. The question has been raised, do Americans have control over our money system? Do we have control over our money supply and our currency? Alan Greenspan, former head of the Federal Reserve during 4 presidential terms, helped answer the question for us.
What should be the proper relationship between a chairman of the Fed and a president of the United States?
Well, first of all, the Federal Reserve is an independent agency, and that means basically that there is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take.
An example that highlighted the American people having no control over our banking system was during the 2008 financial crisis when Senator Bernie Sanders asked the head of the Federal Reserve, Ben Bernanke, where our money was going.
Will you tell the American people to whom you lent $2.2 trillion of their dollars
Will you tell us who got that money and what the terms are of those agreements?
We explain each of our programs. In terms of the terms, we explain the terms exactly. We explain what the collateral requirements are. We explain what
To whom did you explain that?
It's on our website.
Yeah, okay.
So all that information is available in our commercial paper
And
program.
who got the money?
Hundreds and hundreds of banks. Any bank or that has access to the U.S. Federal Reserve's
Can you
discount.
tell us who they are?
No.
To summarize everything up, the Federal Reserve prints money called quantitative easing. It loans large amounts of money to powerful corporations and banks. They purchase everything owned by Americans. These include our assets, property, stocks, public services, media, government forces, and politicians. According to economist Catherine Austin Fitts, we are being bought up with our own money. When central banks such as the Federal Reserve prints money, the value of that money decreases. As a result, goods and services become more expensive, and it makes it harder for us to live. Another way Americans are losing is through bail-ins and bailouts. When banks gamble with our money and lose, they have to be bailed in or bailed out to keep from failing. Bail-ins use our bank's deposit to take money, and bailouts use taxpayers' money. Americans are losing money through unemployment. Corporations are sending jobs to countries such as India and China, where there is no minimum wage and no tax on profits. Companies like Apple use this process called outsourcing.
The Trans-Pacific Partnership could make these labor problems worse. The TPP is an international trade agreement being developed in secret by corporations. They're working with the Obama administration to fast-track it through Congress. It impacts our food, healthcare, medicine, free speech on the internet, the amount of income Americans will receive for their labor, and even allow corporations to sue our government. The only member of Congress to see it, Alan Grayson, said this agreement hands the sovereignty of our country over to corporate interests.
Money printing, the American buyout, inflation, bailouts, and outsourcing are combined with our potentially biggest problem of all, debt.
John Perkins said his job was to corrupt the leaders of countries to purposely put them in debt, so banks can control and rule the people. Now this action is being used on America.
Yes, we developed this system around the world. It's also happening in the United States, and it's put us in a very difficult position. So this model that was successful in what we call third world countries was brought home to roost.
We're asking Congress to balance the power between the average citizens and the people in charge of corporations and banks. We suggest reinstating the charter process. This procedure was used in the mid-1900s for corporations. A bank or corporation must receive a charter in which they perform good for the general public. If they don't abide by the charter's terms, it will be terminated and they will not be allowed to exist.
According to the 2012 census statistics, 22% of children in America live in poverty. To provide a better future for the next generations, we need Congress to protect our right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Protect us from odious debt, protect us from corporate power and influence, and please reinstate the charter process. We need corporations and banks, but we have to protect the people's rights.